Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Happy Sunday, everybody. See, Russ, I got it right this time. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope your weekend has been going well. Looks like we got quite a crowd in here today. No questions from the chat yet, so I'll kibitz a little bit here. We can get into some questions. It's kind of been a weird week. We're in that typical Oregon um, winter weather pattern where it tries to snow down here. And, all last week woke up to an inch of snow in the morning, and then it would be gone by noon. The rest of the time, just rain. Couple of sunny days, but cold. It's just typical gloomy Oregon wintertime weather. Let's see. We've got I've got next week's video done. Well, except I got to shoot an intro and outro, and then it'll be ready to go Sunday. And I'm ready to get started on the video that's going to follow that. I'll give you a preview on that a little bit later on. We do have a question out here. Brooks Martin says, trying to understand merge lowest and learn what I can about this option. Let's see. I believe we're talking about uh, in the modeling tab, aren't we there, Brooks? You're going to have to refresh my memory. And I'm thinking this is a Aspire only question, but I could be wrong. I've only used it a time or two, and even then I wasn't all that familiar with everything it does. Let me get over here and prove my ignorance. We'll get into Aspire, and yes, I'll go over here into my clip art. And let's see, I'll just pull up a shallow dish. Then I'll shift and kind of make that a little bit bigger and go into the modeling tab, and I'm going to change that combine mode to subtract to make it a dish rather than a dome. Okay. Let's go back into clip art and let's find something else. Let's find something to put in here. Lots of stuff already in a dish. Let's see, I'm not even really sure on what application to use. Let's go for this. We'll put this in the middle and expand this out just a little bit here. Do you have a specific question about the about merge lowest? Okay, and then we'll go back over into the modeling tab. Or is this just an in general, what does it do type of a question? Okay, here, let's bring this back up like so. And I'm going to, I've got the dove set to add, so it'll sit on top of that dish. And let's go right click into the combine mode. We have merge, add, subtract, merge, low. Is this what you're referring to? The low down here. Now I know there's about a 30-second lag. So when I ask something on screen, it's going to take about 30 seconds for you to hear it. Then Brooks has to type in his answer to my question. So I have to sit here and fill time and bore you guys to death while I'm waiting for him to type in the question. You think so? All right. Well, let's take a look and see what it does, if anything. I will say this, that Mike Mazalik is the 3D guru, and this is a question I need to ask him about. And if we go and we put it into merge lowest, we can see that it just blends in. So here's what we'll do. We'll go back to add, and let's make the thickness on this dish a lot lower. So right now it's 0.6 inches thick. Let's bring this down, way down. Let's take it down to 1/4 of an inch even. Okay, let that update. All right, so we have a very, very slight dish in here. Okay, now if I just take this entire model and I switch this over to standard merge, it's actually going to raise up slightly off of the top of the dish. Did you see how that did that? I went from and back down to add, and it just takes the model at its standard thickness and applies it to the top. So let's switch over to merge lowest, combine mode mark. There we go. And boom, it blends it down in. I think what it's doing is it's blending it into the bottom of this modeling plane here. Now, I can't think of an application for that, but that doesn't mean that one doesn't exist. No, I haven't used this. I have used multiply. You know what? I'm going to have to get back to you, Brooks, because I'm not exactly sure on what application you would use that in. I'm really not sure. Unless you had something incredibly thick, like you wanted to blend a base down into the bottom of the model. But let me dig into that, because this may be something, this is definitely something worth exploring. Let me look at what the model height, the shape height is on this. Yeah, let's set these both even and see what we get here. I don't often get a chance to just play live on camera. Okay, so we've got them set both the same thickness. And now let's take it to low, and it still blends it right in. Okay, let's do something else here then. Let's go back into the properties on my doves, and let's make it double the thickness of our base model. So that'd be 0.5. And it's still going to stay the same. Now let me turn off the dish and just look at the dove, and it is above the modeling plane. Turn the dome back on, and let's go to the dome, look at the shape height. The shape height is 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to have to get into that and find out. Now, because I am changing the, oh, wait a minute. Okay, I changed the combine mode of the heart. Let's change that back to add. And let's go to, yeah, no, that's correct. That is interesting, Brooks. Let me get into that and dig into it a little bit further, because I think well, that's merge. I think you may be onto something. If you add another level and move the doves to the second level and merge low, let me try that. You may be onto something here. Let's see. Move to level, new level. Okay, add, yes. All right, so we've got 2 separate levels. Now what I'll need to do is the combine mode of that level. Go to low, does the same thing. It just blends it in. It just blends it in. Okay. Well, let's change that back to, what did we have that? We had that set at merge, right? Yes, we did. So it's filling in right there, and the merge will actually bring it up to where it's above the top level of the dome here. But if we have it set to add, it's going to apply it down to the dome itself. Okay. The Peter Van Vliet come along and says the low option is used for recessing a shape into a raised shape. So that would be, I'm guessing, if I went with a dome instead of a dish. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. So let's take this and we're going to change the combine mode to additive instead of subtractive so that we have a dome instead of a dish. Now we'll come up here and we'll drop our combine mode to low, and it did nothing. So let's change that back to add the way it was. We will change the combine mode of the entire level to low, and that flattened out the top. We don't want to do that. Let's take it back to add. Let's leave the, let's just change the heart. Come on, right click. I can't just right click the heart. It won't do it. All right, I thought maybe I could just merge low, and I could merge low just the dove and heart, but it doesn't do anything. Okay. Alrighty. Peter Van Vliet says their example is a raised keyboard key that has a letter recessed into it. Okay, that makes sense. For that, I think I would just use subtract, but you know, I can see where that would that works. Okay. All right. I'm going to play with that a little bit and see how that differs from just using the subtract mode. So let's go ahead and play with that a little bit. Let me get rid of, let me delete level 2. Yes, I want to delete that. And let's go back over here into the 2D view and let's add, get into the drawing tab, text, and we'll put a letter into, let's drag you over here about to the center roughly, and we'll just do a giant M, close, and let's select that, then select that, and let's center it. There we go. And now, let's see, I would need to create a shape. So let's click off, select that, go back over into modeling. We're going to create a shape using that letter. And we'll use a dome profile. That's okay. And I'm gonna, yeah, I'll leave that alone. I'll leave that alone. Final height, no limit. I'm just go ahead and leave that be. Now I've got that letter M. So let's close, and I'll take this component here, combine mode, low, and okay, I see what it does now. So it's recessing it. It's leaving that dome shape pointing up, but it's recessing that letter M into the dome. Let me, I got it selected. Let's go here and let's make our shape height just a little bit higher. Okay, I don't want to bring it up above the surface. Okay, the dome shape, let me close this and turn off the dome itself. You can see how the dome shape is still in the positive. Okay, Now, if I switch the combine mode to subtract, now I turn off my dome, you can see that that dome shape is now in the negative. So now I see what we have going on. All right, that makes perfect sense. So, all right, switch that back to low. So it maintains its positive shape, but then just recesses that positive shape down into the other positive shape. Interesting. I would have never thought to look at that. But now, excuse me here. Okay. But now let me look at something, because you see how deep that is recessed. Let me see if I can, I've got it selected. Let me go in here and add a little bit of base height to it. See if I can lift that up, because maybe I don't want it. Yep, there we go. That'll lift that up slightly, so I don't have it projected down into that shape as far. But now I need to bring the shape height down a little bit more. Okay, there we go. With it all red, it's below this surface. If I bring up the shape height and you see a little bit of green poking through right here, that green tells me that it's above the surface of the material here. So I want to bring that shape height back down so that it's below all these surfaces and I don't have any green. And it keeps this at a nice flat level. It's not following the contour of the dome. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Intriguing. Thank you for the question, Kurt. I don't often get to play around live. Usually the questions I have kind of take me off on a tangent. So I don't get a chance to dig in and play while we're here live and discover stuff the same time you're discovering it. That's intriguing. I'm going to have to play with that a heck of a lot more. My only concern would be getting in and actually carving some of this. You're going to have to use a very small bit. Now, let me close this, go back to a straight Z view, click off, and oops, come on, Mark. Straight Z view, click off. Remember, and you're in, all right. We're going to do it that way, are we? We'll go back over to the 2D view then, and we'll select everything and see what size we have here, because I don't remember. Okay, yeah, it's about 9-inch. So a 1/16 inch bit might do all this, get that detail carved in there. Then again, it might not. We're looking at a small bit no matter what you do. But yeah, that's actually pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool. And thanks for that question, Kurt. That kind of gives me a chance to play around, which I don't really get much of a chance to do. Let's see here. Steve Knoll is asking, is it easier to use sheets or layers to separate a multicolored bitmap for cutting out the different colors? Layers. Layers are far, far easier. And the reason for that is with layers, was that, I'm sorry, did I say Kurt? I meant Brooks. I apologize. Thank you, Brooks. Okay, I've got some notes here. You guys are hearing a click. Well, if it's not my teeth, I don't know what it is. I'm not getting anything on this end, and I'm not seeing any kind of a signal out of my transmitter for the headset. I think I'm staying away from the from the microphone. If I'm having audio issues, please by all means let me know. Um, but using layers. Okay. Steve says it sounds like mic pop. Okay. It's like a static click. Okay. Well, the battery is charged up in the headset. I come out and fire up the computer and let it run for a couple hours before I come out and start broadcasting. All right, I'll have to dig into it and see if there's something I can do about it. I can't do anything about it right this minute, but it's something that I will check into. Thank you for letting me know. Let me go back over to Aspire and we'll share this. All right. I can go ahead and get rid of this. I don't have a bitmap on this computer to load, and we'll delete that. We'll delete that. But I can show you the difference between using layers and sheets. Okay. Mustache hair scraping the mic. Hey, anything's possible. Okay. Mark Rolls says it's my mouse clicks. That's odd. It's a wired mouse. It's not. It's not a cordless. Never know. Okay. Anyway, the difference between layers and sheets is layers are. Uh, Imagine a clear piece of plastic laying over a work table, and each piece of plastic has something else printed on it. You lay the first piece of plastic down and you've got one letter. You lay the next piece of plastic down, you've got the second letter. You lay the next piece of plastic down, you've got the third letter. Each one of those is a separate layer, but they all make up one design. So if that makes sense, we've got over here in our layer manager up above, and we also have a layers tab. Mine are down here. Yours may be off to the left over here on the side, but we also have a layers tab. Each layer I add, I can add a new layer, and I'll tap enter on the keyboard, add another new layer, enter on the keyboard. Each one of these layers is like one of those pieces of plastic I was just talking about. So you can have 3 or 4 different layers that would create one design. Then you can turn off a layer at your convenience if it's confusing the design, or for instance, you have 2 vectors that sit on top of one another or overlap one another. If it was all on one layer, that would confuse the issue. And when you go to V-carve it, for instance, you have intersections in your design, things like that. So by using layers, you're able to put, let's say your multicolored bitmap, you have red, white, and blue. You could put all the red vectors on one layer, then all the white vectors on another layer, then all the blue vectors on another layer. That way you can work on them one at a time. Sheets, on the other hand, are completely different sheets of material. If you were cutting a shelf unit and you have 2 shelves, then you have 2 sides. Well, you have 2 pieces of material that you can get 2 sides, and then you have another piece of material that you can get 1 shelf. You could create 3 sheets. Tap enter. And you could put your shelves on one sheet, one side on one sheet and another side on the other sheet, and keep that whole project together in one file. Now, you'd have one set of vectors for this sheet for your two shelves. Then you'd have a set of vectors for your right side, for instance. Then you'd have a set of vectors for your left side. So that's where sheets come into play. The sheets are, if you look out here in my drawing space, the sheets are three separate pieces of material. Now, when you think about it, they probably could be used for something like what you're talking about, but I think that would lead to more confusion than if you were to just use layers. Simply because if you move, let's go back into my layers tab. If you have, all right, I said layers tab, not sheets tab. Let's say I go into layer 1. Go over here and I'm going to just make this as simple as I can. I've got a rectangle here. Close. All right. Now I'm going to go to layer 2, make that active, and I draw a circle over that rectangle, just for example. That's my whole design so far, but I can come up here into the layer manager, or I can go over to the layers tab and I can turn off that rectangle and just work on this layer. I'm just shaking my table all over the place and camera looked like it had an earthquake. Then turn it back on to check. If I move one of these vectors, whether by accident or by design, I can move this vector, should I want to, in relationship to this circle, and I know exactly what the relationship between these two vectors are. Now, let me delete this, and I'm going to leave layer 2 up. If I go over to sheets and I go into sheet 2, that's my active sheet now, sheet 2. There's my rectangle over here. If I draw a circle out here somewhere, I don't know the relationship between those two vectors. I don't know if this one is sitting on top of that one. I don't know. I mean, I can guess. I could pull out some guides and place them. But if I'm keeping everything on one sheet and just using different layers to separate the different colors, it's a heck of a lot easier to keep track of. Does that make sense? So let me go back over into the sheet tab and I'm going to get rid of these other two sheets. We'll delete and we'll delete. So I only have the one sheet. Go back over to layers. I say go back over to layers. They're all on. Okay. I've deleted my circle, but that was because I put it over onto something else. And we'll do that. Close. Oops. I was on layer 2. That's my active layer. I mean for that to be on layer 1. So click, right click, move to layer 1. Now I've still got all three turned on, but if I make layer 1 active and turn off layer 2, oh, nothing went away. Oh, that needs to be on layer 2. Move it back. Move to layer 2. All right. Now I can turn off layer 2 and just work on everything I want on layer 1. I don't know if that's as far as you needed me to go on that, but sheets are more for organizing projects where you have a lot of different parts. And I really honestly didn't think that I would use that as much as I do. It was one of those things when I first saw it, I thought, okay, great, really appreciate the addition. But when am I ever going to use that? And then the very first project I created after that was introduced, I used it because I had one project. Well, it was that walnut T-shelf project that I shot video on. I had a back, I had two sides, and I had the shelves. So I used it and I fell in love with it. It's like, holy cow, I don't need 3 or 4 different separate files. I can put them all on separate sheets and have one file. And now I'm not losing things. So, let's see here. Steve says it helps, but have trouble keeping the active layer in play. Okay. Keeping the correct layer in play is something that is important 100% for sure. And it's simply keeping your eyes up here. Now, forget about the layer tab for just a minute. If we look up here at the layer manager, it says layer 1. That is the active layer. So just take a look up there. Now, if I turn on layer 2, I have the whole thing going here, but I turn off layer 1, it's red. So layer 1 is the active layer, but I have it turned off. So just kind of pay attention to what you've got going on up here, because right now, anything I put out here, let me go for an oval, anything I put out here, I'm drawing, now it turned on layer 1 again, you see? Because it was not active, but I tried to add something to it. Now, if I click on this circle and I move it, even though layer 1 is active, that change happens on layer 2. Okay? So let me make layer 2 active just by clicking the title, turn off layer 1 and layer 3, which has nothing on it. And any change I made was made on layer 2, even though layer 1 was active. So the only thing that you need to remember is the layer that you want to work on. You need to make sure that layer's name is right here in your layer manager. Okay. And that's that it just becomes habit. So you click, turn on all of your layers. You've got your design created. Go into your layer manager, turn on all of your layers. Now, if you get a situation like this where if you look at these icons right here, the third in, you have the light bulb, then you have the little screen, then you have this third icon here. There is, if you look, I don't know how well you can see this because I know it's very small. You can see this little rectangle and it has like it has some vectors in it. It has what looks like a drawing, but then layer 3, it's blank. That blank means it's an empty layer. Just to kind of help keep track and keep things organized, if you have an empty layer, there's no sense in it being there. Whether you created that, layer or not, what you can do is you can just right click, go to delete, and the bottom choice is empty. Now, I don't know if you noticed or not. I'll do it again. What I did is I went to my active layer, right click, went to delete, delete empty. And all it did was it deleted that empty layer. It did not affect layer 2 at all. Now, you don't have to do that. You can click any of the layers and it'll do the same thing. But just wanted to let you know that if you think you've made a mistake and went, oh no, I did that on layer 2, that's my active layer, or that's a layer I want to keep. If you select delete empty, that's all it deletes is any empty layers that you're not using. So, let's see. Chris Copanal says, how many layers did the pirate end up being? I want to say it was 6, maybe 7. I don't think I have that file on this computer, but I think I think it was 6 or 7. The most I've ever had was 8 layers at one time. And that can get a little out of hand. I mean, and that's why you have the option. Let me go ahead and go back to my layers tab. That's why you have the option of setting a color for each layer so that you can kind of visualize and keep track. It's like right up here, this second icon, I can change this to, let's change it to red. So now everything on layer 2 is, or layer 1, excuse me, is red. And then I can come here to layer 2 and I can change that to light blue. And now everything that I put on layer 2 is going to be light blue. So you can kind of keep track of that, and that does help. So, so I could make a new layer and then change that color to green, for instance. So, and then anything that I add, let's see, I'm in layer 2, so anything I draw now is going to be in that light blue color. So let's add another oval over here just for giggles. And that's good. If I click off, it's blue, the same as this circle, because they're both on layer 2. That could be another signal to yourself, Steve, that which layer you're in. If you change the color of that layer and you draw that blue oval and go, oh, no, I meant to put that on layer 1. That wasn't supposed to be on layer 2. And this will answer this question here, help answer this question, which was, which is best way to move to a different layer, copy or move? It depends, because I can make a case for both. Okay. I'll make the case for the first one, for the second one first. If I make a mistake and I put this on the wrong layer, I don't want it on layer 2 at all, I can select it, right click, move to layer 1, and now it's red because it's associated with layer 1. But now let's say I want to weld these two together, because when I'm finished with my design, no, I want to, let me move this around here. Hold on. There we go. Now let's say I want to weld all of these together, because after I've V-carved all of these, for example, I want one single outline vector for my profile cutout. So I'll select them all, then I'll copy them to a new layer, and this will be layer 3, and I'll change that color to green. Okay. So now I've got all of these copied to layer 3. So, whoops, what am I doing? I'm going to click on layer 3 to make it the active layer, turn off layer 2, turn off layer 1, close it. Now I've got all my vectors. I can select, and where are you? No, where are you? Weld. There's my weld, and I can weld them together. Now I have one vector for my profile cutout. So there's a case to be made for both. If you need to copy a vector to do something else with it, then copy is correct. But if something is on the wrong layer, or you decide later on you want to put something on a separate layer, then move to is the right one. So Now, Rob brings up an excellent point here. It's easier to keep track of what I'm doing by naming each layer. Like layer 3 would be the weld profile. And yes, absolutely. I was trying not to confuse the issue by throwing extra things in, but 100% correct. And that just simply come up to layer 3 and click in there and call that, like he said, weld layer. Personally, I would name it cutout because that's the vector I'm going to use for my profile cutout. So I'll change that to cutout at a T and just click off, and that changes that. And then you could also obviously change the names of the other layers. And okay, we'll change that one to circle. Oops, come on. There we go. 1E. And then let's hit enter. Let's turn this layer on. And we have a rectangle and 2 ovals. So I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to change this to ovals. Enter. And I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to call it rectangle. Enter. I'm going to leave. No, I'm going to change that to orange. Close. I'm going to select the rectangle, just the rectangle. I don't want to select the outer boundary. Right click, move to layer, rectangle. So now all of my shapes are on separate rectangles. Each one of them is named. And I can turn off the ovals. I can turn off the circle. If I want to work with the rectangle, I can turn off the cutout. If I want to work with the cutout layer, I'll select it to make it active. Turn off rectangle. And now I can take this and I can offset it outwards. Now let's go outwards by 1/4 of an inch. Delete the original. Offset it. And now when I go back in, turn on all of the layers, I can V-carve each one of these shapes and then come back, and there's my profile cutout. So naming the layers is an excellent point, and it is something that should be done. For instance, when I did the pirate, and I showed this in the video, what I tried to do was I took each layer, each color I was going to pour, for instance, the peach for the flesh tone, that went on one separate layer. And I named it peach, and I tried to make the color it was drawn in that peachy color. Then for the black, I made the color black, and I named it black. For the white, I couldn't use white because I would never see the vector. I think I went with a real light gray, but I named that layer white. When I did the gold for the earring, I named that layer gold, and I went with kind of a goldy color. So naming really does come in handy. And that will help you keep track of what's going on, because if you want to work with the rectangle and you look up here and see cutout, now you know I got to go in, I got to work with the rectangle. That's what I'm going to do. So let me shut all the rest of these off so I'm not being confused, and that's the only thing there. So, okay, let me turn all this on, back on here. And I did see your question, Sargon. I'll get to that in just a second. Jack in the shop has a very easy one to answer. Downloaded a DXF. I tried to run it. The curves took so long. Yes. I looked at the nodes. There were nodes like every thousandth of a millimeter. And for those of you who kind of unfinished business from last week, 1,000th of a millimeter has a name, and that name is micron. We're talking, a human hair, depending on averages, anywhere from 35 to 65 microns. So we're talking tiny, tiny stuff here. I removed all unneeded nodes in Linkscape manually. Oh, can you auto reduce nodes with vcarve? Yes. And you're going to hate me for telling you this. Okay. Jack, you are going to hate me. Select the vector, and it's not going to really show much here because I created these vectors in Aspire. Select the vector, come right over here under Edit Objects, third row down, the third icon in, Curve Fit. You'll click on that, and you have 3 different types of curves you can fit to those to those vectors. You can go with circular arcs, Bezier curves, or straight lines. Okay. I tend to go with Bezier curves. Somebody is going to tell me that CNC controllers don't like Bezier curves. Stop typing. I know they don't, but I've never had an issue. Okay. I've never had an issue. I select Bezier curves, then I click preview. Now here, it's probably going to add nodes, but you can see the preview that I've got going out here. I've got 4 nodes because this is made up of 4 arcs. So if I click preview now, it's going to convert these arcs to Bezier curves. And it did. I now have 7. Is that right? Yes, I now have 7 nodes where I used to have 4. Let me go back to circular arcs, preview it, and it changed the whole thing again. I still have 4, but look at where they are. I don't want to use that. Cancel. If you import a DXF file, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, depending upon the age of the DXF file, it's made up of a bunch of straight line segments. Select the vector, come over here to curve fit, decide if you're going to use arcs, Bezier curves, or straight lines, which is usually my last resort. I generally don't use straight lines. I generally use Bezier curves. Click preview and then look at the, oh, you know what, RB? You're absolutely right. My profile. Yes, there we go. Good example. Look at how many nodes are made up in that oval. Thank you, RB. Look at how many nodes make that up. And the same thing down here. Is that kind of what you had going on, Jack? Well, then you're going to like this. I'm just going to preview it using Bezier curves, preview, and there we go. We've reduced that. If that's acceptable to you, click OK. That's it. I can select, tap in to go into node editing, and there are my points. Okay, now let me Control Z to undo that, and you can see how many points I have. Let's try circular arcs. So I've got it selected. Go into curve fit. Let's change to circular arcs and let's preview it. That's still better. That's still a heck of a lot better than it was. So that would probably that'd be a toss-up, maybe. And we'll click OK and just accept that. Now when I go into node editing, I still have more nodes than if I used Bezier curves, but it does help. So I hope that helps you there, Jack. You do not need to go back in and remove all those nodes uh, manually. And I feel for you because before I discovered that, I was doing the same thing. So, so let me go ahead and stop sharing that and let's get back up here. Sargon says, excuse me, simple question about move. I should be able to enter the distance I want to move in either X or Y, say a quarter inch, by entering where it shows X and Y values, XXX plus or YYY minus, etc. My X-axis is doing it right, but the Y moves way off. Is it okay? Let me ask a question. Remember that positive moves in X are going to move to the right, and positive moves in Y are going to move up. If are you going with positive when you want to go negative, or negative when you're going positive? You say the Y moves are way off. I don't know. If you're entering the information correctly, it should move the correct amounts. That's okay. No, I was trying to move a square a quarter inch down in Y, so that would be negative 0.25, and there was an issue. I don't know if I don't know if you need to put that 0, so it would be 0.25. So I really okay. Oh, and you did use the 0, and it still didn't. But and you did go with negative. Okay. Um, I I would shoot a email to Vectric Tech support on that because it should move in the direction you want it to move, the amount you want it to move. There may be an issue. I would shoot a email to Vectric Tech support and ask them about it. So, okay, let's see. Pavan Singh says, I'm trying to make inlays. I would like to use the Amana 46280 tapered ball nose bit using Vector V-carve. Should I set up this tool as a tapered ball nose or a tapered ball nose? Set it up as what it is. But let me warn you about something. I don't offhand know what the tip diameter of that bit is, but do know that you may have an issue in that when the ball nose cuts the female, if you have a square corner that bit is going to ride up and create with the radius of that tapered ball nose bit, you're going to have that radius. Okay. Now, when you go to cut that male part that's going to plug into that female, you are not going to have that radius. It's going to create that square corner. So that square corner is not going to fit into that radius corner, and you're going to have gaps. My suggestion would be to use a V-bit. And Amana does have a V-bit. And remember, a lot of people get confused about this. I'm looking for my Amana bit. I've not run away. I'm looking for it here, and I think that's it. That's it right here. A lot of people get confused about this. Okay, you say that bit is 6.2 degrees. Okay, when we're talking about a tapered ball nose, and I hope you can see this. Okay, there we go. That is a Amana 15-degree V-bit. See how sharp that tip is? That is almost as sharp as a hypodermic needle. I'm here to tell you. It will eat your lunch. When you're talking about a tapered ball nose bit, you are entering one side angle. Now, that Amana bit you're talking about is 6.2 degrees. This is a 15-degree V-bit. A 15-degree V-bit takes both sides of that angle. So the side angle of this is 7.5 degrees. I would use this bit rather than that tapered ball nose bit. Okay. And I know you don't want to hear that because that means you have to spend more money. But Brooks Martin says 0156 tip radius per Amana's tool database. So that would be what, a 64th of an inch radius? You're going to have a 1/64th of an inch radius in your female, and you're going to have a square corner in your male. I would use the 15-degree V-bit. And pro tip, when you order two. You will break one, guaranteed, because that tip is delicate. Do not use a touch plate to set your Z0. It is very, very delicate. Okay. If you sneeze on this too hard, you'll snap the tip right off. I'm here to tell you, I've done it. This is, and I'll do one better for you. I will put it in the chat right now. This is the Amana 45611-K. That is the tool number. I'll go find it online and put a link in the description as soon as we're finished here live. But that's the tool number of this 15-degree V-bit. And they're kind of pricey, but order two because you're probably going to break one. Don't use a touch plate with it. Okay, let's see. Wow, 103. Let me see real quick. I will take a look at it, RB, and come right back to you, okay? Off screen, behind the scenes. Let me see if there's another question that I can answer very, very fast. Bob Helter Bridal, how'd the body work on the spoil board turn out? Shh. No, actually, that's fine. It turned out fine, ready for primer and paint, but that's not going to happen. As Bob has alluded to, next week's video is going to be on repairing my spoil board. Everybody makes mistakes. I'm here to tell you. And I made more than my fair share. So next week's video is me repairing this spoil board, then resurfacing it, getting it all nice and pretty. I've got to shoot the intro for that and then get it loaded up and ready to go. In the video after that, I'm going to revisit creating a fixture offset. Only this time I'm going to make two. I'm going to create one fixture offset like the one I had over here in that first video. Then I'm going to make another one over here in the center. And I'm going to set each one to a different work offset in Mach 4. Then from there, show how to use it. So don't worry. I was just yanking your leg there, Bob. Don't worry about it. It's okay, because I was going to talk about it at the end anyway. So that's going to be next week, is repair my spoil board and resurface it and get everything all nice and pretty. 2 weeks after that, we'll be setting up two work offsets, and I'm going to go further in depth than I did in my last video. And I will show you how I set them up as I set them up, because I'm going to be making two. So from there, I think that's about all. Channel members, tomorrow at okay, Brooks Martin throw me here. Craig Lafferty asked, is there a way in Mach 4 that shows the amount of progress completed during a job? As of right now, no. But there is a discussion over on the Avid support forum. There are a couple people working on a screen set plugin that will include that. About the closest thing that comes to that is if you look at and I don't have Mach 4 loaded, it'd take forever to load on this computer because I don't have a CNC hooked to this computer. If you look at your G-code window and watch where that position slider is, that position slider moves down as it runs a line of G-code. That's about the closest thing you're going to find in the stock Mach 4 screen set. Now, there are a couple people, as I said, if you go over to the Avid CNC support forum, there are a couple of people working on a plugin that will add that that progress bar. But as it sits right now, there's nothing really stock from the factory. So thank you for that, Brooks. I appreciate it. Tomorrow, I think, members, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about maintenance and care and feeding of your CNC. I haven't got that for certain, but there's some talk in the members only Facebook group about that's something that folks would like to see. So we'll probably get into that. So that'll be tomorrow evening, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. And if you would like information on how to become a channel member, click the little join button down in the down there next to the subscribe button. A little panel will pop up and a video play. Me telling you all about channel membership here on my channel. So see y'all members tomorrow. Everybody else, see you next Sunday, where we can get into all the smelly, stinky products I use to repair my spoil board or spoil board, for those of you who can speak. And after that, we'll go from there. I think that's everything. Special shout out to my buddy Steve Nealon at Harneal Media. There's a link in the description of every video on my channel. If you're thinking about a website, talk to Steve first. Talk to Steve first. I'm here to tell you, he is the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you very much for everything you do, Steve. Y'all take care. Have a good weekend. Go on, make some chips. Go do something. There's still time. Well, for most of us, some of you getting ready to sit down for dinner. All right. Anyway, y'all take care. Have a good one.